Welcome back to the Shadow Business Podcast. I am so happy you're here. I am so excited to bring to you this third episode in my wealth series, Why You Won't Sit Down and Make a Wealth Plan, and what it is really about. So, we've been speaking about net worth in the last episode, and I have been speaking at length about my Get Wealthy ebook, which you can still get. You can find it for free in the show notes, and I think it will really, really help you. But I know that the reason why you haven't downloaded it yet, maybe because you are not listening to this podcast, but it's most of the time it is also because of this, because of the three shadows that appear. So I want to talk in this episode about something that we all kind of agree that is important and then actually never do. And actually making that actual wealth plan for yourself. And, it's not a vision board or anything or an income goal or anything. It's actually really making a plan. What do I have? What do I do? What do I want? What's the gap? And what are the steps to get there? And I find it so fascinating that with the people that I work with, the women that I work with, really genuinely high earning, smart, capable women, I see my clients sit down, plan their content calendars, their launch strategies, their meal prep, even in their personal life. But when I ask them to sit down and map out their net worth, crickets. I don't hear anything. And so that's not really true because obviously I force my clients to do this and I put a knife to their throat. No, I'm kidding. No, that's not what we do. I have a way, right, to make people do that. Also through these episodes and convincing techniques. Anyway, today we actually dig into the why. Not the I'm just really busy or I don't have any money, but the real why. And so we're diving into the psychological, the systemic, and the uncomfortable why. So it's going to be very exciting. And I think that after listening this, you cannot unsee it. So it's also peel your ears because let's go. It's going to be perfect. So the first thing that most of my clients say when I bring this up is, I just don't know where to start. And I understand that, but I also want to call that out because in the age of Google, of YouTube, of free calculators, my free net worth calculator, which I shared about in last week's episode, and I'm going to put the link in this episode again, or free templates, I don't know where to start is not an information problem. That's not the thing. It's actually a motivation problem, or it is actually more accurately, it is an avoidance problem. And so when you think about it, you figured out how to launch a business, right? You figured out how to create content, how to actually make a template in Canva that works for you, or how to edit videos, or how to manage clients, or how to run a program, or how to do a launch, or all those things. And I think that you are not someone who can't figure things out. And I just don't think that. So I think that there is still not a lot of many. There's still not many people doing this. So, for instance, my brand is very much in a blue ocean. Just with business coaching, I would be operating in a red ocean, but I'm actually not. So it's something that still not a lot of people do. So the question actually becomes, what is your planning threatening? Because when we're looking at avoidance and the shadow way that we can look at it, it is always protective, right? It's just never random. Your behavior is coming from something. It's never random. So if you're not doing the thing, there is something that represents that your nervous system is trying to keep you safe from. And this is just how humans work. And we want to look at with three shadows that I've written down for today's episode is what is that something that is keeping you? So the first shadow that comes up, and it is so common, it's like universal. It is the fear of the reality check. And so this is what I mean with that, is that as long as you don't look at the numbers, you can hold on to the story that you're doing okay. Who has done this at one point in their lives, right? You can believe the narrative, I earn good money, so I must be building wealth. No. Earning money and having money are two entirely different things. I mean, they couldn't be further away from each other. And somewhere at a level just below conscious awareness, a lot of women know that. A lot of my clients know that. And you know that the income, it looks impressive, but the savings or the investments are not. And so you know that there are debts, or that the pension is barely touched, or you're not building anything, or that the emergency fund is more of a mild inconvenience fund. And so the plan does not get made because you like the making the plan means seeing the truth, and the truth might hurt. And so this, when we look at shadow work, is a Jungian shadow dynamic in the most classic sense. So the shadow isn't the dark, horrible things we keep away on purpose, but it's actually the thing that we keep in the dark without realizing. And that's also the true definition of shadow work. The more I speak about this also with my clients, the clearer it gets. Also in my content is, to many people, it's not very clear what shadows are, but actually shadows are not so much the things that you hide on purpose, but subconsciously. So looking at your current numbers or your wealth plan, or actually sitting down or doing that net worth calculator can be destabilizing. And so the psychology here is something that is called motivated reasoning. And this is where you unconsciously avoid information that would force you to update a self-concept that you're currently invested in. So it's an identity shift. If your identity is, I am a successful woman, then looking at a gap between income and actual net worth feels like evidence against that identity. So the brain protects the identity by not looking. And so the problem here is that you cannot close the gap if you refuse to measure. And there is the reframe that I really want to offer here, because I'm not just calling out the shadows. I also want to help you with this podcast, is the plan isn't a report card. And it's just a navigation tool. Don't put any emotion into it. It's your current position on the map does not say anything about you or your worth, or if you're even worth it being a human being. No, it just tells you where to point, exactly where you need to go. Okay. Maybe you need some time to process it. Okay, so the second shadow is a bit more systemic, and this one goes deep. So for a lot of women, wealth was never modeled as something that was theirs to plan for. So money was either managed by a partner or managed by scarcity, meaning there was not even enough to strategize about. So you just moved it from one urgent to the next. And we call it filling holes with holes in the Netherlands. It's really badly translated, but you probably understand what I'm saying. And so on a broader level, women have historically been excluded from financial systems. And we didn't have the right to open a bank account independently in many countries until the 1950s, and some countries even the 70s. And actually, there are still some countries who will not allow you to do that. So mortgages, investments, credits, all of these systems that were for a very long time built around us rather than for us. Also, I want to be very inclusive in this. Some people are coming from families who also did not have the opportunity to build wealth, obviously. Then you need to do more work than people who were, right? And you can call this unfair, but you can also just think, okay, you know what? I am going to work on this, right? Because I don't want my history to write my own story. So what that leaves in knowing this, in the cultural psyche and in family systems, is a kind of inherited message that goes something like, financial planning is not your domain. It was the husband's jobs, the accountant's job, the financial advisor's job, not yours. When I was looking for a financial advisor, because I knew I wanted to work on this, right? So 2 years ago, there were only men, and the women did also not speak to me, but there were only men, and I worked with a man. It was not a success at all, because he did not understand me at all. It was very annoying working with this person. Horrible. There were some few things that worked out really well for me, but most of it was just not good. And it was interesting because I thought, yeah, this is also why I'm doing this work, right? Because this is exactly the gap that I thought, ooh, when people start a business and they notice a gap, this is what I did as well. I didn't start my business, but I did deepen it because of this lack of that you can actually work on this yourself. And that's what I want to speak about. So when you sit down to make a wealth plan, you are not just doing the admin, right? You're actively stepping into a space that your ancestors were told they did not belong in. And the nervous system can register that as a transgression. Add to that the systemic wound I see come up constantly with high earning women, the idea that having wealth makes you unlikable, the fear of becoming too much, the sense that being visibly strategic about money is cold or greedy or unfeminine. So instead of planning, you will earn. You spend, you keep moving. Planning would mean actually claiming something, and claiming feels dangerous. And so this is also why wealth planning is never just a spreadsheet exercise. This is what my financial planner did wrong with me. It is a relationship with inheritance. What was modeled, what was permitted, what was forbidden. And so I actually had not really a falling out, but I was commenting on really a big Instagram account that is encouraging women to invest. And she posted something like, you should really not just make money, but also give it away. And I was just thinking, no, this is not the default setting that women should have. I know it was, and maybe, you are this, but I don't think that women automatically need to give everything away. This is also such an inherited response. I actually got quite fired up about it. And actually, she removed my comment just because I said something about this. And I decided not to follow them anymore, because I thought, this is the problem and I'm not going to fight this. But I'm saying it on my podcast because you know what? I have one. Okay, the third shadow. This one is a bit more behavioral, but it's actually backed by solid psychology. So making a plan creates accountability. And for a lot of people, particularly people who have built identity around being intuitive, free-spirited, abundance-minded, those things, rigid structures feel like a threat to that identity. This was also me, right? So I'm speaking from my own shadows as well, right? So there's a concept in psychology that is called self-handicapping. It is where we unconsciously create conditions for failure in advance, so that if you don't succeed, you have an excuse. Well, you know what? I never really committed to the plan. It is very protective. It actually keeps the ego safe. You probably do this with many things in your life. Oh, well, it was never meant to be. Or, oh, you know what? Ugh. And so not planning is the perfect self-handicap. I didn't have a plan. So there was interesting, because I'm doing a lot of trial reels right now, and it's really working well. And I do get a lot of traction, a lot of comments, and all those things. And when I speak about wealth, by the way, you can also get my trial reels training for €11, right? I'll put the link here in the show notes as well. But there was a man commenting on one of the many trial reels, and he was saying something. I didn't respond along the lines of, yeah, I've been working really hard all my life, and now I don't have time to build wealth anymore. And I'm like, okay, okay, interesting that you're posting this here, but also, um, yeah, you know that at one point you need to have a pension. Everybody knows this, right? This is one of the things that you will learn at school or inherited. And yeah, so because you didn't make the plan, now we kind of have to do something about that. I'm sorry, but I don't think so. This might sound harsh, but yeah, if I mean, of course, if there's a crisis and everything, and if you've lost everything, this was not that kind of story, right? This was just someone who deliberately not did that. What I got from his comment, and so it is actually very protective and it keeps the ego safe, but it's not keeping well, it's not doing anything for you. And so not planning is the perfect self handicap. And you can actually never fail a plan that you never made. And so when you have this spiritual or abundance mindset, and I had this too, and I still have it, right? But I just thought, okay, you know what? I also need to make a plan. You can actually accidentally reinforce this, the idea that planning is low vibration. I'm laughing because, or that trust and flow mean that you don't need structure. That's not true. You need both. So I'm not anti-abundance mindset, absolutely not. But structure and surrender are not opposites. You can hold a vision and hold a spreadsheet at the same time. And so I don't think that the plan is the ceiling. The plan is actually the floor, if you understand. Okay, so what do we do with this? Now that you know. First, I want to say that naming these shadows doesn't automatically dissolve them. I'm sorry, it's not gone after listening to this, right? But it does mean that you can stop blaming yourself for the avoidance, because you're not lazy, you're not bad with money, you're just carrying a lot of inherited stuff that makes this harder than it looks on the surface, and also for men around you, or maybe the people around you. And it's worth acknowledging, and it's worth acknowledging where you're coming from. Also, your upbringing, right? It has so much influence on how you're looking at money. Even if you're making a lot of money, it does influence you a lot. Second thing is that the antidote to the fear of the reality check is a tiny, compassionate first step. You don't need to sit down with 5 years of bank statements and a tax advisor. Absolutely not. You just need to start with, what is my current net worth right now, approximately? Assets minus liabilities. That's it. It's just one number. And I have my calculator. You can download it for free. It's very easy to do that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be there, because once it's there, once you've written it down, it is actually workable. And so I've created the free net worth calculator. The link is in the show notes here, snow notes, because I think that removing the I don't know how to structure this friction is useful. Even if what the calculator shows you is uncomfortable, knowing is always more empowering than not knowing. Okay. And so if you notice that the resistance is less about the numbers and more about what the numbers mean, then that's shadow work territory, and that's worth exploring. And that's exactly the kind of thing we do inside my programs, in my coaching. And it's really the intersection of the subconscious patterns and actual financial strategies, because the numbers are actually quite fixable, but the beliefs underneath them are a longer game. And that's exactly the work that I do. Okay. So I want to do a quick recap here. People don't sit down to make a wealth plan because, one, you're afraid of what you'll find, and the plan feels like a verdict and not a tool. Two, there's a systemic and inherited message that this space isn't yours to occupy, and stepping into it registers a transgression in and of itself. And three, making a plan actually creates accountability. And for some people, that's scarier than staying vague. And so none of these are character flaws. It's all very logical. It's all very normal that it's there. It's all very workable. And so if this episode resonated, you need to be inside my Get Wealthy Challenge. Yay, I'm so excited about this. In just 3 days, we dissolve your shadows and we create a wealth plan for your future. And the challenge is totally free and will take place next week if you're listening to this live, but it will be available also on replay. If you can't make it, you can watch the replay. It's for a limited time available. You'll find all the information in the show note, right? Show notes, right? So yeah, I'm very excited about this challenge because it's gonna be so good. And I'm so excited also to make you more wealthy. The thing with wealth is that you don't see immediate results, right? But with a plan, you will see what could be your results. And that's exactly what we're doing inside the challenge. So thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I had a bigger outro last week and I'm just going to do it again. If this episode resonated with you and if you think, ooh, this person might benefit from this, or you want to post it on your Instagram stories, tag me. I love reading all of your comments, or just send me a message on what you think of the podcast. I really, really like that. I'm a human being and I love seeing that from you. And it's not just to help the show and or me, but it's also to help the people around you, the women around you who want to get to more wealth. So please do that. And once again, thank you for listening and hope to see you next week. Bye.